Well, so far, Republicans and Democrats have been deadlocked on the terms for the next COVID-19 relief package. They only have 2 days before pandemic unemployment benefits expire for millions of Americans. Republicans want to cut those benefits from $600 to $200 a week. Both parties agree that Americans need another round of stimulus checks, but Democrats want to keep the current unemployment benefits and add housing and food assistance.
If you can barely afford the rent, can't find work, can't feed your kids, or are fighting your family's future, the Republican plan leaves you out in the cold.
Once a final deal is passed, it will go to the White House, of course, for President Trump's signature. Now, the new stimulus bill, eventually expected to provide Americans with more short-term relief, is also adding to our federal deficit. And beyond that, the economic impact of this pandemic could linger on for a long time to come. Here to talk about that and how people can start planning now is Steve Nylander, who lectures at San Diego State's Fowler College of Business. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you, Virginia. Nice to be with you today.
So I guess the question is, obviously, Americans need this. They're out of work and businesses are suffering. But in the meantime, is relief now pain tomorrow, possibly in the form of, let's say, higher taxes down the line or changes to programs such as Medicaid?
Yeah, I think these are all important things to discuss. And you're right, the debt level of this country is about $25 trillion before all this started. And it's a little bit more than doubled in the last 7-8 years. So here's a very big debt load. But this is really what you need the government for, would step in times of crisis like this for the greater good of the people. And the cost will be spread over a number of years for sure. With respect to budget issues and things like that, I think it's important for people to realize that about 2/3 of the government budget is spent on Social Security, Medicare, health, and their income-related programs. So, you've got 2/3 of the budget that goes to that. That means where else do you spend money on? 15% on defense, 8% on the interest for the debt, and then you've got 5% for veterans, 3% for education, a couple percent for transportation. So it's pretty easy if you're looking at a problem to solve. You've got to go, where is most of the money spent? That is extremely politically most people don't like to discuss it. They're afraid to talk about it, and I think want to pass it along. But I think that's where you've got to look. Before your viewers worry or panic about that, I'd say there's a number of ways that can be fixed, and we've already started to see these things. Retirement ages have consistently moved up. They're going to be probably moving up to 70. Before you stop paying into social, or before you stop paying full retirement age, I should say. They can look at adjusting benefits for people that have significant outside sources of other income. Also, right now, the total income for people, I know it may seem like a fair amount to a lot of people, but you get taxed on Social Security up to about $137,000 a year. And after that, people that make more do not pay any incremental tax. And that number has consistently gone up over the years. I think you can look forward to that moving up as well. For people, I don't see an end to the Social Security program. I see adjustments, and they just need to be small but incremental, because there's old saying, small hinges swing big doors, and you just need to take time and get started. And that's what seems to be the biggest problem. So while it seems like a big problem, it is fixable and can be dealt with. It just takes some courage.
Well, that's the thing. It's always about how we do that. And then is there some other emergency where the government needs to spend money? Are there any concerns that we'll just continue to kick this can down the road and that eventually our kids will have to pay for it?
Well, I think that inevitably, it's been a really long time since we've had I think you have to go back to the Clinton administration when we had a surplus and actually had a much lower debt level. But, the Bush years, we had wars to deal with. We had a big economic crisis through the Obama years, and now we're dealing with a pandemic. So there's really no way to avoid this. The one thing the government could do, as I mentioned to you earlier, they do spend about 8% of their budget on interest expense. And so even though the debt level has, gone up considerably over the last 15, 20 years, interest rates have come down so much that it's allowed them to keep that in check. So the biggest concern really would be is if, and that's a big if, which we're not expecting, but if interest rates were to go back up, that could be a big crowding out to other parts of the budget. And I see that as really, quite frankly, the biggest risk, although we're not expecting interest rates really to move up. one of the things the government could do, if they wanted to, they could go out and issue 50 or 100-year bonds right now. There is bond appetite. I mean, interest rates are really low with the 10-year Treasury below 60 basis points. But if the government could go out and issue some long-term debt and fix these low costs in for a long time, that would be something that I would think that they should probably start to look at.
All right. Thank you so much, Steve Nylander. We appreciate your insights in this, and hopefully it will not be as painful as it could be once this is finally all over.
You're welcome. Yeah, things never usually are as bad as people worry about. So.
All right. Steve Nylander.